Welcome to Kopi-O with CISO Podcast. I am Tevanraj, your host, and I bring you inspiring stories and insights from thought leaders in the world of cybersecurity in Malaysia. In this episode, I'm honored to have Tevanraj, whose career to date has been quite intriguing. He earned a law degree but decided to pursue a career in technology, which was apparently the best decision he ever made. He is currently a DevOps/SRE engineer for Zendit, a unicorn fintech startup. He has also previously worked for AirAsia and Petronas Digital. In addition to his regular job, he occasionally engages in angel investing and provides technical and growth advice to startups while experimenting with new cloud technologies. He is also an organizer for the local technology groups DevOps Malaysia, Junior Developers Malaysia, and Kuala Lumpur JS. So, without further ado, it is my pleasure to invite Tevanraj, who will share with us his journey and his perspectives on integrating security into DevOps. Welcome to the show, Tevanraj.
Thank you for having me.
Let's dive right in. Tell me about yourself. Explain how you got into DevOps and what do you do now?
Sure. How I got into DevOps is probably a long story, but to cut it short, I started with a career of software development and full stack developer, and then I went to DevOps for simple purpose and simple goal of my curiosity, right? So I want to explore my curiosity and something that I can do that make an impact and I can see it add a value to the company as a whole. So if you do a software development, you can code as much as you can, but that's how you're going to be that level, which is like you code and then you develop and up to the product team and then you went to production. But if you're in the DevOps, you pretty much can see the high level bird view of everything A to Z, and then you can make an impact. You can suggestion to the company, the team, and help to make the team and the company more efficient, automate stuff, and basically you can do a lot of cool stuff to cut it short. So that's what interests me, and I got into DevOps, and then when I stepped my right foot for a bit, and then I end up going all into DevOps and SRE at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So tell me more about your current company and what do they do?
I'm currently working with Zendit. Zendit is basically a unicorn from Indonesia fintech startup. What they do is as fintech, as they have currently mainly focusing on payment gateways. Mainly the clients are in Indonesia and Philippines, but now expanded in Malaysia and Philippines is already there, and then Thailand as well. They're expanding, so basically pretty much they want to conquer the ASEAN itself. So, and they have a bit of digital banking side as well, insurance I think so as well. Pretty much a bit of everything, to be honest. So that's what we do as usual in fintech. When you're talking about banks, security is the top important thing as well. So yeah, I'm the main SRE for the product here for the Zendit itself.
Absolutely. You pointed out about security being at the top when it comes to fintech. Okay, let's dive right into the topic of the day, integrating security into DevOps. And until recently, security was seen as a silo function in software development, and also often we hear people talk about security should be integral to DevOps. Even in my current company, we talk about, hey, we must do DevSecOps, implies that still silo. View on this.
I keep it very simple. First of all, most companies, people hate security, but whenever security can't find you, they hate it. They try to hide from the security. But they find it, okay, this they're gonna come and this is stigma itself, right? They're gonna come and say, you cannot do this, cannot do that. I'm gonna block this and everything. So basically, everything is a no whenever that's the first thing people so it's always been a negative stigma over there. So whenever we talk about security and now we want to do DevSecOps, if some people they feel oh shit, it's gonna get even worse. Now I need to deal a lot of compliance, I need to follow more rules, and my laptop probably got sealed off from internet and all that. So these are the thoughts people are gonna have. That's one. And second, we have as well is people are used to it. Last time, I just code, push through it. I don't have to do any testing. It's there in production. I don't have to worry because no one's gonna find you, and no one's gonna check the code. No one really understand. Your boss probably don't understand the code. So it's only you pushing the code to production, and it's there live. So long the thing works, no one gonna come and find you. But things are changing, so that's why we need to also change, and that's why DevSecOps comes in two ways. One, it makes things automated and fast, efficient. Second, it ensures that the compliance is there, and the developers and the people doesn't really hate the security much, but try to love the security process itself and understand what is being done. So in a way, it's like getting you, instead of I'm getting angry at you, I'm angry at the tool of the security static code analysis and all that. For example, a simple static code analysis run the scanning. Some vulnerability is there, probably an API key is exposed directly hard-coded. So we ask to remove it. So if you go to the old way and very silo, I probably done the code, push to production. Someone else will do a security team will come and do a scanning, random scanning. Hey, there's API leak, key is leaked on the production. Now you have to go back to the developer and find the developer. Hey, can you remove it? And then you do need to replace the key and do a rotation and all that. This entire thing will take you about what 3-4 months to entire process itself. But with the DevSecOps, you're actually trying to prevent it as well. So that's what I say. Basically, make things faster, try to make the people, the dev, all love the security and compliant to it. And third, we get things done in a preventive manner instead of like after shit happens and go and try to fix it. So we try to prevent it first.
Many interesting points you made there, Tevanraj. And it very much resonates with my situation where recently I came up with a security framework for my company's SDLC and established a RACI matrix to highlight roles everyone should play. And that raised lots of eyebrows. I presented the RACI matrix in my senior leadership meeting. And one key question from one of the senior leaders was that, hey, how is this going to slow down our go-to-market strategy, revenue, and blah, blah, blah. And this also shows that the current mindset is that security will slow the business. And I can't help but to think that it's a cultural issue, not really a technology problem. But given what we have discussed so far, how do we then tackle this cultural issue to get the buy-in from the stakeholders that we have this responsibility of shipping out a secure and safe application? I'm emphasizing the word responsibility.
Simple as everyone need to take ownership. That's one, right? So, and then you need to show the single point of failure as well. Right? And people don't see it until it happens to them. It's proven many times, right, across the company. Even LastPass had an issue. So LastPass, the password manager itself, they had an issue of like security vulnerability a few times. How you want to justify it to them is simple. Just like, especially to the management side, everything. If you show like all the metrics or data, they actually don't care and don't even understand like what you're going to show everything. But obviously, it makes sense if you come to compliance and audit, the data makes sense. But for the management, if you think about ROI, like how fast I can go to market, how much I can make money of it, and what's the return I'm gonna get with the least cost I'm gonna spend from a business perspective. But to take the buy-in and all, so usually what I try to do is from the other way. Basically, the other way I say here is we look at their perspective. So they're looking at a business, and then you can give an example, and the point is show them examples of like previous history, what happened in other companies. For example, LastPass, how this can impact if it happens in ours. So we're gonna put in a way of like shape it as this is what happened here, and we're trying to prevent this happening in our company. If it happens, this much of loss gonna happen. So instead of you putting a matrix, is there a matrix, but it's very bottom. But to convince them, you're going to show the numbers of like this much of loss probably going to happen as estimated based on this. If this got leaked out or this happens, this security issue actually got vulnerability and all that. And our branding, our image, and all that, right? Those are the stuff that you want to prove. So that's one. Second, if you want to say is like you do want to slow down them, right? What you can usually show them is like what I usually do is like 3 ways. One is not actually 2 ways. One is try to make it. I will usually give the longer time frame, and then I say, hey, actually, but we can do it faster by using this though, or by doing this way. But actually, I know this, but I'm not going to introduce that first. I'm going to introduce a longer time frame first, and then give it to them until they complain. Okay, I'm just going to do this. Is what we have. We can do it in half of the time frame that you can. We can give it to you. That's kind of like show them like, okay, we try to help them as well, not only trying to like be a showstopper for them, right? And that's one as well. And another way also, like we're trying to convince them reduce as much of impact in terms of like timeline for them to the go to market. One of the ways is like we try to involve as early as possible in the planning stage itself, so that it doesn't mean that they suddenly want to like 1 week before they want to go to the launch or production or live, they come and say, hey, stuff you need to fix. And these are very serious issues need to be fixed, which will take time. This which going to delay their go to life. So that you want to prevent that. So now one thing is we say that we want to work together with them from the beginning stage itself. So that's probably what I would say. Like I think it's just three main points over there.
So those are great suggestions, a lot to process. You mentioned about, especially on getting the buy-in. To summarize what you just mentioned is that to speak the same language, right?
Yep,
From
correct.
risk perspective, revenue perspective, show them the potential impact. If something that already happened, it were to happen in our organization, I adopt and I try to speak. I call this podcast Kopi-O with CISO, and I'm assuming a CISO role, and the company that I'm with right now never had a CISO. And the first board meeting that I went, Yep.
Yep.
Spot on. And also, I like the idea that you mentioned that if you are struggling to push the idea of deploying secure codes because of pushback from the business and all that, and show them better way of doing it, right? And you also mentioned about automation can solve a lot of our problems, and integrating security in that CI/CD pipeline or the software development lifecycle itself probably, in fact, will speed up the overall process itself, right? Like you mentioned. Yeah. So on that same note, we hear this term shift left, and what is the impact to the overall software development and the kind of applications that are being developed by organizations that are adopting this shift left mindset?
First of all, if it's like shift left, it usually means that you want to release faster new products and new features, and usually this what it means is like you're gonna try to fit it in the agile. For the people, usually agile part means is like things gonna get it overnight. So probably like in 1 week or overnight we're gonna have a new product go to life to speed up process. So but I think the challenge usually with the shift left is it's not only about the timing, but it's also about automation and integration. You need to try to what you try to do here, instead of going to the manual QA, which is like last time the developer will probably like, I do a code, I done already my job, I'm gonna pass it to QA gonna do a test. But this developer probably won't even test the code. He's just like, okay, works, that's about it. Works, okay, I'm just gonna let the QA to do it. But pretty much when you pass to the QA, it's going to be like a lot of issues. And when you do that, it's going to be like back and forth, and it's going to be more time consuming, right? In the waterfall and all that. With the shifting to left, it is about the goal of like trying to do it as early as possible in the development, like in the beginning itself, like what I mentioned
Right.
in earlier for the earlier question as well. We want to try to get involved as early as possible, try to work together and fix the issue in the beginning itself before it gets big and very hard to fix it, and it end up becoming like a headache and bottleneck later on. One of the couple of things that you can probably do is like automation, performance testing. You could probably all integration tests and end to end unit testing as well. And you can even do a simple with the Cucumber tool and all that, with the headless browser. You can run the entire end-to-end testing as well. Through even with the CI/CD itself, you can integrate everything within the CI/CD itself. With a lot of tools that are available at the moment out there, right? Whether it's open source or paid.
Now, the points that you just made set us up for the next question. Shifting left will also involve strengthening the skill sets of developers from security perspective, doing threat modeling as early as possible, identify the mitigating factors so that developers can code those security mitigations when they're coding. Have you seen where taking developers and teaching them security resulting in positive impact?
I mean, you can do all the trainings, right? Train the work to the people, and like, okay, we expect them to follow. But if they don't understand what you're trying to do or what you're trying to achieve, then it's going to be pointless anyway. So I think it's the key point is trying to make them understand why you're doing the why itself. That's the most important thing. And when they understand the why, they will also try to more cooperate easier to work with, and they also know like you're actually trying to help them. You're not trying to be a slow down or making things or replace the job and stuff. So because people actually hates change, right? It's a general thing. People will talk about like a lot of tools, a lot of things coming in, a lot of new technology innovative, but until you go to them and they want to implement it, they'll be like resist you because they hate the change. This is a normal human behavior itself. So how we can help you with this is like you want to work together with them again, but instead of doing the entire, you just throw it. Okay, tomorrow onwards you need to do all this. You can start small first. So for example, with the code analysis itself, you can give a first report, do a simple without even telling him or the developer itself. You just go to the GitHub or the code repo itself. You run a simple code report, coverage report test. Run a simple scan, you get the mark, the percentage, and the coverage, and then you can just pass it to him. And then you can sit down with him and have a discussion, or the team. their team, have an initial early stage, basically trying to touch base with them. So you get a feedback and they know what you're trying to do and they understand what you're showing. And then after that, you probably can come up with a solution like, okay, we're gonna do this. Are you okay with trying out with this tool like static code analysis or perhaps or dynamic code testing, all this? And instead of like you doing both together or like entire full coverage testing, you do it gradually by like 10% and then increase to 20% and then increase to 30%. So they don't feel overwhelmed. They feel like don't resist it, but they understand you're trying to help. So they would, and also will understand the process in the same time as well.
That's really helpful to know. And again, this relates to my next question. I've seen security practitioners and even vendors talk about all kind of software testing, SaaS, DaaS, SCA, vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, etc., right? And likely there are so much noises coming out from these tools. And in your experience, have you seen these and what's your view? Are we being overly paranoid with security, and are we overdoing application security?
I mean, for vendors, it's always like security is the easiest point to sell a tool, right? Because that's the scare tactic. Okay, I'm gonna do this and everything. This, if not, it's gonna happen this way. This what happened, and people get scared because it's like.
Oh, you have no idea what I face on a daily basis. I have plethora of vendors knocking on my doors, trying to sell me things. Crazy.
Yeah, it's like that's the reason, right? People want to sell very badly, but we thought you can have all the tool you want, right? But if, for example, you can use a simple guardrail, right? So I was using guardrail, also like, and then you want to implement it. But if you don't do it 100% of the, I mean, not even 100%, like at least 60% of the coverage or the code testing, you set up in the application security testing of 60%, and it's pointless anyway. Because if you just integrate a tool and then you're going to set it at like 5% or 10%, and the rest you're going to just skip the vulnerabilities because the developers find it too much to fix and they don't have time and you want to go to the market. Then it's pointless to having a tool anyway in the first place because it's going to take basically you're skipping all the vulnerabilities, so you're not fixing the major ones. Like what I said, you can have all the tool you want, but if you don't implement it properly, it's like going to be pointless anyway.
Precisely. One of the biggest challenges that I faced when I started with this CISO role is determining the risk tolerance level. I mean, this is given I accepted the fact that apps will always have vulnerability, and I don't think there are no modern application out there with literally zero bug or vulnerability.
Yep.
But the thing is, where do we draw the line? What can we tolerate? For example, I thought with this idea of establishing defect density. I even tweeted about this. I think you also responded. But to be honest, I've not really pulled it off. And in your experience, does it make sense to establish a policy or risk tolerance level for vulnerability level in an application? For instance, a policy that says no critical vulnerability, but you can tolerate, say, for example, one high vulnerability for every 10,000 lines of codes.
I mean, I can take this in a few ways, right? But first of all, I can say is that if you're already having problem with the risk matrix itself, this is probably another big no. If it's a risk matrix itself not going through. But in terms of this defect defensivity, and it basically means like the defect you found in the line of code, and there are no JavaScript and tag and like all the libraries and most of the code libraries are like, and language, all the versioning evolve very fast, right? React, I don't know how many times they probably last time used to have it every few weeks they have a new version to fix it. So for me, it's like basically you need to label it on the criticality of it based on major, severe, and all that. You can have all the number of defect, but it's going to be under the bedrock. And also another thing is about your team skills and the capabilities. So if the team skills are a bit like really good, and you can actually like throw this as a challenge to them and try to fix as much of defects. Another way that some companies does as well, you can have a defect deficiency report, but you don't act on it. But what you do instead is you choose every 6 months or 3 months, you throw like a hackathon. Like, so we're going to do a hackathon 24 hours. We're going to try to fix as much number of defects in the codes or line, the defects in the line of your code, and then you try to see which team can fix it in a very fast and highest number of defects they can fix it. Basically, you're squashing the bugs in a very short amount with a hackathon. So, and this kind of like motivates the team and to achieve what they want. I know several companies, big companies like tech companies, are doing this in a way as well. So because when they grow too large, it's just way too much to fix, and they actually don't want to have time. So instead of that, they try to do an internal hackathon on this. So yeah,
that's a very great tip, Tevanraj, and I never thought of that. But following up on that, what are some of the things that we need to put in place to organize an effective a hackathon, even challenges, right? For someone to have a successful hackathon?
It's usually this is based on because you want the most participation ever, and at the same time you can't force it. So usually what they do is we leave it to the developers themselves figure out and come up with a guideline and with the guidance of the obviously from the security side as well, like what can be done and what cannot be done. But within the company itself, and then you can do it just to give a timeline, and then you have a report of before and after as well. So and then based on the after, you can get judge the winners and all that. But obviously, it goes by the team. So, for example, one team is handling the homepage, or one team is only handling one payment gateway integration, for example. So, each team have their capability to fix it. But at the same time, another thing is like probably one team is easier to push changes. Another team probably have a very complex system, so they're gonna have a harder time to fix the defects. So we need to take that into account as well. But if always you can start with a very small amount in a very small team first, and then slowly the news will spread, and then we get more interest, and then you can start to like go company wide. But always start small and slowly grow bigger. So we try it out first. If we keep
Great. I'm definitely gonna reach out to you offline to get more tips on this. Gonna read up. I really think that is a brilliant idea, something that never crossed my mind. And again, one last question on hackathon. How do you incentivize participation? I mean, because you mentioned about 24 hours and whatnot beyond their typical working hours. So I suppose you have some reward system in place.
There's two ways doing it. So if it's like you can do it over the company trip as well, like you can do it like one day. When you do a company trip, you can spend like one day in a whether they overseas or locally in the company retreat or trip. So you spend one day, just like you have one day, you just figure out and like try to figure out. Now the way of doing it is if you give a time like where in a slow period of your like development and time, you can give like 1 week to the teams. So you fix it and then show us like how much you can fix in 1 week. How you do it in the midnight or in the morning or during work time or after work time is up to them, depending on the company budget, obviously. So all this can be effective, but yeah, so these are the stuff that can be I can actually find some articles for other companies was doing it. Helps in Silicon Valley, some of the big tech companies were doing it. I can try to get that articles and share with you offline as well.
Great. Definitely I learned something new today, something that I can explore and very keen to explore. So we are coming up to the half hour mark. I have just a couple of questions. And what are the common mistakes with regard to security in DevOps that you often see out there?
People forget the basic of it, basically the keys and drive. So basically what it means is keys, which is a simple software development life cycle, is about keeping it simple and stupid. And second is about do not repeat yourself. So this is applicable in DevOps as well usually, because as things move very fast and you have a lot of pressure, so DevOps is always about high pressure, right? You get a lot of pressure from everyone, literally, from the product side, from developer side, from management, and you want to get things rolling, and sometimes you have production issue and all that. But as you do that, you also need to keep in mind, you don't want to you need to think about yourself as well, like long term. You don't want to do something that you probably think, shit, I need to maintain this down the road, and then like who gonna maintain this? Like, so when you do something, implement something, or try to fix something, or come up with a tool, for me, I keep it as like, okay, do I need to do a lot of maintenance for this? If it's yes, I really don't want to go that pathway. So I try to find it the least effort for me to require in a very fast manner. And I don't want to keep doing this every single time. For example, something as simple as like API URLs, right? So you want to keep adding the API URLs, and then you want to add a course as well. And all this pretty tedious because you need to add the same thing again and again. And like, I need to add a course, I need to fix this, and I need to whitelist and all that. But what if we follow the way of like, since you're doing repetitive, why not you automate this? Why not you empower the developer themselves? Like, so you have like a simple they call it developer platform, or even like Spotify have a backstage, right? So it's open source as well. That's something. So they have a catalog and all that. So let the developers do it, but you monitor it. And then you also give certain level of like limitation. I mean, access and everything. So let them do it instead of you doing it. So at least they know as well, like what effort taken, what actually they're trying to do. So in the same way, you're saving time on your end, and you don't have to do the same thing again, tedious trial. And the second thing is you actually empowering them. They feel empowered. They feel happy. They don't have to wait for us. And they learning something, and then they understand what you're doing. But for your end, you actually like already know what they're doing, but you're okay with it because you know they're capable of it, and they also certain level of control and like compliance there that something shit won't go down the road because you literally like have the control of the platform itself. So they call it usually like a developer platform and all that. Understand the basic. Understand the basic. Need to know what you know. So developers, obviously people, I see what a lot of people think like, okay, developers are like, you always assume that developers are stupid and DevOps is like smarter, or like someone else is because they all come to you, so you like, so the ego is quite high. So you think that you are actually like bigger than them. Actually, you're not. You're probably like dumber than them as well. Sometimes they are deaf, like they understand the code from end to end, but you don't even understand their code. So and you're just simply saying it. So if that actually shows that you don't even understand the basic. So the key here is like you need to understand where they're coming from, their perspective, and you need to also understand the basic stuff. So at least when they're telling you, you understand what is they're trying to tell you and what the problem they are facing and what you need to try to help them to solve it. Otherwise, it's gonna be like a friction there, and like they're gonna hate you, and like no one will be productive, and they try next time they won't even come looking for you anytime because they will gonna spend more time trying to solve the problem, but and then expecting more time. So those are the stuff, right? The basic stuff, very basic stuff, but happens in many companies. So which we want to avoid, because for me I came from like full stack developer and I understand that as well, so I understand the code level and everything. But now I see that people like coming from DevOps, like as a very out of the uni, they straight away go to DevOps. So they miss a lot of like a learning curve there, so they're missing a lot of stuff on that part. So yeah, and even at security as well, so they don't really understand some people like missing out or underestimating the security vulnerabilities as well.
Another great tips there. Something that I forgot to ask earlier in the session on your local community. Is there anything that you want to share, or what do you do with regards to your local community on DevOps that you run?
Oh yeah. So basically, other than like my full-time job as well, so one of the things that I always want believe in and like want to do is like giving back to the community as well, because you're learning as well, and like you want people to learn. So one of the good thing about tech is not in Malaysia, and what I've seen in overseas, in US, even like in current very tech winter and everything, we all got each other. So they always try to help each other when even the layoff and all that happening. They will try to help out each other. So it's never about ego or you're bigger than me or not. It doesn't matter your principal, your CTO, what, everyone will try to help each other. This is only very unique in the tech environment. If you go to other field, you won't find it, right? So this is something that I want to keep the positive and like try to give back to the community, trying to bring this and grow this in Malaysia as well. So that's why I have like basically I started with three. She's Kuala Lumpur JavaScript group. I'm trying to like hand it over to a couple of like hand over to a friend of mine, but still in the background trying to help out on the organizing that meetup. And another two is about DevOps Malaysia, where we bring out all the DevOps stuff, very exciting stuff, and conversation as well, very candid session. We keep it very friendly, very open to learning and all that, with a very with a good code of conduct as well. And also another thing very important is a Junior Dev Malaysia. So Junior Dev Malaysia is about like helping junior developers in Malaysia, specifically try to do a bit of mentor and mentee kind of feel as well. That's one, and then try to like provide opportunity for them and to grow what they're looking for, what they're stuck with. So this is unique into Malaysia. But if you look at it, a lot of like local units or like a local junior developers, we find who actually get it from uni, or they probably work with a company for 2-3 years, but after that they really switch. I mean, a lot of them actually like drop out from the tech field itself because they are lost. They don't know what's the tech direction, the career progression. They probably lost, and that okay, I don't want to do this anymore because it's like it's too much for them, or they don't really understand or anyone to guide them. So they just drop off and do something else. So that's something I try to like come in and help with the junior developer Malaysia.
Very inspiring. And I'm not going to take the risk of disclosing your age in this show, but for the listeners, Tevanraj is a pretty young guy, already very experienced and already doing so much amazing stuff, Tevanraj. Okay, so we have come to the end of the session. I think if the time permits, maybe in the near future we can do another one, because there's just so much to talk about. I can sense that we can go on and on for the next half an hour. But again, Tevanraj, thank you so much for coming on to the show, Kopi-O with CISO, and until we speak again, and all the best in whatever that you're doing.
Thank you for having me, and
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Kopi-O with CISO, your go-to source for insights on the latest cybersecurity trends and best practices in Malaysia. I hope you found today's discussion informative and engaging. I look forward to sharing more insights with you on my next episode. Until then, keep calm and secure on.